Hello. So I'm so glad you're here. So I will tell you a little bit about me and share about my experience as a doula and all the things that I know, experienced, let you ask questions that hopefully I can answer. And yeah, this is just a time to help you better understand if this is the right direction and right path for you. So let's get started. So, a little bit about my story. My name is Shanna Bradley, and I graduated high school at 17, got married at 18, had our first baby at 19, and my husband was in the military. And our first birth, I was young. All my friends were in like college, and I thought you just go to the hospital, you show up, and you have a baby, and it's great. And that was not actually my experience. So it was very hard and traumatic. And I some of it I realized was traumatic. Some of it I was like, oh well, maybe that's just how it always is. And about 2 years later, I had another boy, and it was in a public hospital. So the first birth was on a military base. And that birth went really smooth and easy and was very different and non-traumatic. And that's when I realized, okay, so birth isn't always like that. It can be like this. And I was already an EMT at this point, and so I really started to just look into birth and study birth and why was one so traumatic and one was just boring, actually. And so we have 6 kids, so we went on to have several more kids and have different birth experiences, hospital births, epidural births, natural births, home births, all of the things. And so I really realized that there was something to having knowledge and education and support, which I didn't have the first time around. And so as I dove into studying birth and birth in America, eventually I became a doula. And so I find that most doulas come from one of these two things. Either they had a really traumatic birth and they don't want to see anyone have a birth like that, or they had the most beautiful, perfect, Instagram birth and they want everyone to have that as well. So it's usually leans one way or the other. I do also have a few who have never given birth yet, who have seen or experienced birth, usually in a really positive way, that they just are so drawn to birth. And so I had one doula that I trained. She was like 14 or 15, and her aunt had her come to her birth at the hospital. And her aunt thought, hey, if she sees me deliver at like 14, 15 years old, she will be very careful to wait to get pregnant. And she went to the birth and she's like, this is the best thing ever. It was so magical. And so it kind of had a different effect than her aunt hoped. She still has not has had children yet, but she just thought that was funny that her aunt was trying to keep her from the whole birth experience, and that just drove her into becoming a doula, and now she's training to be a nurse midwife. So there can be those different experiences. So I want to ask you ladies if you want to jump on and tell me, does any of that, resound with you? Have you had a traumatic birth and you want to see women not have that? Have you had a perfect birth and you want to see everyone have that? Or have you experienced birth in a positive way and that's kind of what leading you to being a doula? If anybody would like to share. I want to tell you too. So we're from the US, from good old flat, boring Indiana. But currently, we are serving in the Philippines. So I am a student midwife here, and I work at a clinic and serve growing families. And so if we lose connection, please just stay on, and I will jump back on my Zoom because sometimes the weather here can just, kick you off the internet for no reason at all. So it's actually my morning. It's 7 something a.m. And we are 12 hours ahead of Eastern Standard Time. So I always get up early and teach before I go to clinic. So if you have any trouble with the connection, it's not you, probably it's me. So yeah, just stay on and I'll jump back on. So there are lots of kinds of doulas. So there are birth or labor doulas. They're the same thing. That one's pretty, self-explanatory that they come alongside women during pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. They're the ones invited into that sacred birth space. You have the postpartum doulas that usually pick up at the at least 24-hour mark. Usually postpartum doulas step in when the support team kind of thins out. So whether the husband goes back to work, the mother goes back to, her home, whatever that looks like. So sometimes it's the first 24 to 48 hours, but it's usually that first week or two that postpartum doulas then come into the home and provide care. Bereavement and loss doulas support miscarriage, loss, stillbirth, even first few weeks or months after birth. Fertility doulas help women to get pregnant. Adoption doulas can work with either the family that's adopting or the family that is putting their child up for adoption. So there are lots of kinds of different doulas, but the word doula is a Greek word that comes from doulos. So doulos is servant and doula is woman servant. So when they were trying to coin a phrase for a non-birth profession, a non-medical, but birth professional that comes alongside of women who wasn't necessarily the mom or the sister, they went back to the Greek and came up with doula, which is woman serving woman, which is really what a doula does. So that really started in the end of the 60s. 1960s is when they coined the phrase doula and what a doula is. And now, like I said, that started with labor birth, and now there's doulas for everything. So these are just some of the different kind of doulas. So being on call, so that's a big one. Since I don't know any of your ladies' stories, I don't know if you have little ones or older kids or what that looks like, but on call is definitely for most people the most challenging part of birth work. And so many, because they either had a traumatic or gentle birth, they tend to have little ones, and that's what brings them into this field. So being on call can be very difficult. So again, we have 6 kids. They range from 20 years old down to 2. So they're not all little at the same time. But being on call is not really like anything else. It's 24/7. Most of the time for labor doulas, you go on call at 37 weeks through 42 weeks. And labor can even, happen outside of that, but most of the time it's between that time. And so it's very demanding in that sense of you just have a harder time sleeping, you have a harder time doing different things. You can't necessarily go on vacation unless you have a backup doula, all of these other things. So being on call can be really difficult and exhausting, which increases your rate of burnout. So for on call, if you have little ones and your husband doesn't have a flexible job or whatever that looks like, I do help with suggestions of helping to find an on-call childcare, which is not always easy. We homeschool, so coming from a homeschooling community, there sometimes are teen girls that can be house helpers or mothers helpers that can come and babysit or watch your kids, or having a sister or your mom or someone on call to come and be with your kids while you go to a birth can be one of those really hard things to navigate. But once you figure it out, it makes it a whole lot easier. So childcare, being on call, it's really great so you don't have burnout to plan out your vacations, but you have to do that at least 9 to 10 months in advance, because, these women will call you as soon as, they find out they're pregnant. If they already know that they want you to be their doula, if they're a repeat client, they might call you right after they find out they're pregnant again. And so knowing that you really have to plan out far in advance, which can be frustrating at times. It's a lot harder to take a spur of a moment trip or like a weekend getaway unless you have really good systems in place and have a trusted backup doula. Any questions about being on call?
Hi, Shanna. My
Yeah.
name's Emma. I am, I guess, one of those you would say, like the third type you mentioned. Like, I haven't had any kids yet, but super interested in birth. Um, and I'm like a young professional, and I just work a 9 to 5 job. And so, um, yeah, I don't know. Do you have any, like, do you know of anyone who kind of made that work? Like, did they do any kind of like part-time doula while they kept their full-time gig, or is it kind of like you need to have more flexibility than that?
Yeah, so it really depends on your job. So I've had several teachers actually become doulas, and they just use their PTO time. Most births, I will say, the majority of births happen at night, and it's just the way your body like rests and settles and relaxes to be able to give birth. And so labor or delivery generally is more common in nights and weekends, and that's just because that's when we're more relaxed. And so there is potential for that. But I will say being a postpartum doula is a lot easier because you schedule those contracts out and you could do that after your 9 to 5, or do it on the weekends or, some kind of form of that. Or you could partner with another doula who handles 9 to 5 and you do the rest of the time. It's not the most ideal because you don't get that constant, consistency of like one person. But as long as you go into it saying like, hey, we're a partnership, we're a team, and you can navigate it that way. But I have had several women who started out with a job and then they would call into work. So it really depends on your flexibility at work, if that's something that you can do or can't do. With teachers, sometimes it was harder because they needed to give so much notice so they could get, a student teacher. So, yeah, what does that look like for you as far as a job? What if you called in at, an hour before work and said, hey, I can't come in today?
Yeah, I think it kind of it depends on like what's going on at work at the time. I think like right now is a slower season and I my manager is super flexible and understanding, but so yeah, maybe it would just be kind of thinking ahead and being intentional about when I'm taking certain clients or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do suggest if you can navigate both, keeping a job because it's like any other small business. You are a small business owner. So it takes a while to build up clients and build up that reputation and get enough clients that it makes sense to leave a stable job. Okay, so how do you choose training and what does training look like? So there are a lot of different options. So prior to COVID, it was pretty slim on everything kind of looked the same. But now you have online or in person. So it's harder to find in person, but you can find them in the more, larger cities. But you might have to wait, 6 months or whatever it looks like. They're just not as common anymore. But that's how we used to do all of doula training pre-COVID. So there's a lot of online programs, but with that, you can have a live classroom or you can have self-paced where it's all pre-done for you and you do it, on your own. So with us, we found the best thing is a combination, a hybrid. So we have the live classes that everyone does together via Zoom, and then they have the self-paced portal where they go through and do extra homework and videos and things like that. So it's the best of both worlds because you get, the camaraderie of a class, you get the support of other students, you get to ask a live teacher your questions, but then you can also do a lot of the work on your own while you're, doing busy life. So look into that. Which one do you want to do? I will say in person's always more fun, but like I said, those are less and less common to be able to do. So online or in person, do you want it to be, self-paced or do you want it to be like a class setting that has lives? And what are the timeframes and requirements? So some you may sign up and have 12 months to complete everything required of you, or you have to start over or pay another fee or lose that fee altogether. And so some have extensions where you can pay an extension fee. Some, like ours, we have everything done that's part of the live done within 1 month, and then you have unlimited amount of time to finish your other requirements. There is no expiration date on that, but look into that. So if you are doing a program especially online, find out what are the time frame restrictions and does that fit into your lifestyle. So if you have 7 kids under 10, you probably don't want a program that expires after 90 days. You might not have the time to complete it in that, and you might not want to pay another fee, to keep going. So look into time frames because they really vary. Go ahead. What? Okay. And
I'm sorry
cost.
about that.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
it's okay. Did you have a question?
None so far.
Okay. So the cost can really vary too. So look into that. And it's not just the upfront cost, it can be multiple costs. So a lot of trainings you recertify every 2 years or 3 years, and that fee can be quite large as well. So, add that in. So it might be, say, $500 for the course, but then every other year you have to pay another three, four, or $500. So take that into account. Some organizations like ours, we have a lifetime membership. So once you finish everything and you get your certification, you do not have to recertify. We see it as a way to get rid of some of those barriers. So we serve and train women from all different countries, cultures, and languages. And so we have women from over 32 different countries that have trained with us. And we know that those consistent, ongoing 2, 3 year renewals are very difficult for some people. And so we wanted to eliminate that barrier. So we know that if you love this and you're in birth work, you're going to keep self-educating, you're going to keep taking classes, doing workshops. You don't need someone to tell you that. You don't need to pay us to make you learn. So I'm always up for free donations. So if you want to send me money every 2 to 3 years for fun, you can totally do that. But there is no other financial requirement after the upfront costs. But be aware of that. So some of the larger organizations, all of them actually have every 2 to 3 year renewals. So I just want you to be aware of that.
I have a quick question actually.
Yeah,
How you doing, Shanna? Um,
good.
so I heard you mention about actually building up your clientele before you like leave your job. But what if it's
Yeah.
something that you wanted to do for like a business, like if you wanted to do it for a business and have a certain amount of clients for a certain amount of time? Would that be something that would work and be more flexible as far as the on-call part, like all the time? I'm only asking because I do a lot of work with my church and serving with my church as well. But I'm very interested in, I've always had an interest in birth. Like I just love it. And I didn't have, you know, the best or the worst pregnancy. I only have one child, but she's an adult now. So I have so much flexibility. But at the same time, when I serve with my church, we do go out of state in between some of the times and do revivals and things of that sort. Would this be something that I would be able to do as a business and have certain clients at certain times?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I just mean it's hard to get consistent work for a
Mm,
while till you really build up that reputation. But yeah,
okay.
you just really have to map it out and be intentional of looking at, hey, we're going to go out of state here for this revival. So I'm not going to take clients that are within my 37 to 42 window in that
Okay.
time frame. Yeah, which is hard because that's a long time.
Yes.
37 weeks to 42. But again, partnering with someone who's like-minded, who you would have
Okay.
at your birth, and working together. Backup doulas are a big part of feeling not burned out and feeling like,
Okay.
hey, if you're sick, there is somebody that is just as good as you who can step in for you. That is
Yes.
definitely key for sure. So I do encourage, and I've had multiple like partners come through training together, which has been
Mhm.
so much fun because then they do the journey together and they're on, the same page together. But that doesn't mean you can, find someone already in your area who's more experienced that you say, hey, like let's work together, or have a group of on-call doulas. But you can do
Yes.
that too. Yeah. So we do international trainings. So before we moved to the Philippines in January, we have done Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan, Cape Town, South Africa. We had come to the Philippines prior and done doula training. So we do in-person doula training as well. Um, and I had to get backup doulas to cover, the very beginning of me leaving and then the very begin, right before I came back, just in case my mom's came, early or late. And so I hate doing that, but it is,
Mm.
a breath of fresh air to know that, you have somebody who can step in if, dates don't perfectly align. So,
Okay.
yeah.
That's good. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Yeah. So what do you charge? So I have a chart that I did some research for small, medium, and large cities in every state in the US to be able to gauge what that looks like. So it looks very different depending on kind of like what I just said. If you're small, medium, or a large city, obviously the bigger the cities, the more you can charge, and the farther out on the coast that you are, whether it's east or west, the more that you charge. And so that really varies from place to place. And there's ways to kind of see what your area charges and what that going rate would be. Um, that's something good to know too, because we have some more small towns where you would, charge like $800 for labor and delivery. And then you go 2 hours to the bigger city, to the capital, and they start at like 12, 1500 per birth. And so it really can vary depending. I mean, like a 2 hour difference can vary and double your rate. So can you do this full time or part time? So you can definitely do it full time. Like I said, it's easier when you have a couple years behind you and you can build up that clientele. Or if you don't need it full time and you have little kids and you're doing it part time, you can build it up that way too. I will say that for consistent income and scheduling and the higher dollar amounts really comes through postpartum work. And so you can do both birth and postpartum. It's one job that if you have a client, they're usually very, understanding of you needing to leave to go to a birth since they just gave birth themselves. And so you write that into your contract, but it is a job where you can be a birth and postpartum doula, and they work really well together as well. And childcare, like we touched on, finding that on-call childcare is one of the hardest parts. But once you do that and have that in place, it makes a huge difference. So it really depends again on what is your support system that you already have. Some people have husbands who work from home, so they can leave really quick, and then that gives childcare time to come to the home. Um, or sometimes they're like, hey, we have a longer time frame in our contract. So some doulas have 2 to 3 hours in their contract where they say, once you call me and say, hey, I'm in labor and I want support, you have a 2 to 3 hour window before you have to arrive, which gives them time to get their kids, take their kids somewhere, get everything in order. And so they just communicate that well with their clients so that the clients aren't calling them saying, hey, I'm headed to the hospital. I feel like I want to push. They tell them, hey, I think I lost my mucus plug and I'm starting to have contractions. So there's this conversation that's going. So it's not like a last minute thing. And it gives you time. So there is some time frame there, and that's built into the contract. And that's really common to give yourself so many hours. And again, it depends on how rural you live versus if you serve only a major city. We're in Manila, which is one of the highest densely populated cities in the world. And 7 miles can take 2 hours. It's insane. From Indiana, where every mile was 1 minute, to come to Manila, where it can be hours to go a few miles. So knowing that too, if you're in a major city, knowing, your time frames is important to give yourself enough time. So any questions about that? Need to grab my cord real quick. Sorry, we're at a slower clinic, and we had 3 births yesterday, which never happens. And so I got home late and I never got my charger cord out. So yesterday was a super, super weird and strange day, but you'll have that. So Created to Birth is our birth doula training. So we have Created to Birth and Created to Nurture, which is our postpartum doula training. And then we have a childbirth education course as well. So we want to train doulas and give them accessibility from every community, every culture, every language. So our training is very easily interpreted and translated so that we can teach in different languages. So I actually became a birth doula and worked with a nonprofit outside of Atlanta for several years, and the most diverse community in the US, which has every people group that has ever been relocated to the US as refugees, and then a ton of different immigrants. And they spoke 157 languages in 1.4 square miles. So one little, kind of like a little town outside of Atlanta. And so I became a doula, and I was serving there and working with an organization, and we taught childbirth education in 6 different languages. And I just saw such a need and so many more barriers for immigrants, refugees, teen moms, BIPOC community. And so through that, we went back to Indiana eventually and started our own non-for-profit that came alongside of immigrants, refugees, and teen moms and provided doula services and childbirth education. And through that, we saw a huge need for a faith-based community doula program that was all the things I just said so that we could train women from these different countries to serve within their own communities. And so I trained up the first Burmese Karen doulas. So we have a large Burmese population in our area, which is the largest refugee Burmese population outside of Thailand. So I knew that was a huge place to start. So I trained some believers within that community to serve within their community, and they're probably the only Burmese doulas in the world. And then I trained some Spanish speaking doulas. We have a lot of Spanish speaking. So they were our first Spanish speaking doulas in our area, and then trained some of our first BIPOC doulas in our area as well, till there was a group of them, and then they started their own BIPOC group as well. So through that and through having the training locally, we got asked repeatedly to come to other countries and train up women to serve within their communities as well, which is some of the trips that we talked about. And we had a huge long list, but COVID made that really hard to travel and do all those things. So then we went to the online platform and again have trained over 30 some women from over 30 different countries, I think 32, 33. And then we do some in-person trainings as well annually. But most of what we do is online or travel to a place with a team, which is really cool too. So we cross certify as well for people who don't feel as aligned with their organization anymore. And we bring on doulas to come and do these international trainings. So we build a team and we train them and we equip them as well. So when we go teach in another country, we bring a whole group of doulas with us and we integrate them into a teaching role as well. So we'll have another doula training in the Philippines next year, and we have our alumni come and be a part of that, which is really cool. So we really have a heart for seeing birth work as ministry, also as business, but we just know that there are three times in a person's life when they're most open to spiritual things, and that is birth, death, and marriage. And pastors are usually part of the marriage ceremony and the funeral ceremony. And so it gives a huge opportunity for women to come alongside of women during pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. And so that's just kind of the heart of what we do. And we use mother, father, breastfeeding, and use more traditional language, which that will also vary from organization to organization. A lot of the bigger organizations now, it is birthing person, partner, chest feeding, body feeding. So something to be aware of. If you want more inclusive language, look for that within the organization. If you want more traditional language, look for that in the organization because it can really vary these days. So, what questions do you have that we haven't covered?
Okay, I have another question.
Yeah.
So you just spoke about training groups of women in other countries. So would you is that something you would do for like women that want to do like missions and go to other countries and serve as doulas?
Yeah, so we actually have a program that starts in January where you can come for it's about 2 weeks and you get to be part of the birthing center, you get to do prenatals, you get to go do in-home visits, you get some fun trainings that are outside of your scope as a doula, and you get trainings that are inside your scope as a doula.
Hmm.
But we do a full immersion here. So we have a trip in January, a trip in February, and then we'll have trips late summer into the fall as well. And so, yeah, we have those starting in January, which I'm super excited about.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah.
Okay. The people that you're training would come in person to the Philippines?
Yeah, and you don't have to be with us. So we open it up to anyone. But when we do the doula trainings where they are a trainer, they
Hmm.
they are generally alumni. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question. Is this training for January and February is in Philippines?
Yes. So we have trainings online. So our next trainings start in September. So we offer birth and postpartum in September and birth and postpartum in October. And so those will be the last two trainings of the year. But come January, it's not a training, it's more of a missions immersion and really seeing global birth as, how global birth looks and what it's like to experience birth in another country while having the heart of ministry and missions as well. So most of the people coming on those trips are already doulas. Some of them are, training as doulas. Some of them are student midwives. Some of them are teens that just want to be midwives, so they're coming and getting the whole experience as well. But anyone can come on those trips who loves birth and loves missions. But it's not a direct doula training, but we will later next year have an in-person doula training in the Philippines. So yes, we offer the trips. We're working on putting that on our website, but I will send you a link. So at Created to Birth on YouTube, we have a whole video that goes through all of the things that are in those trips and what that will look like and the costs and all of that, since it's not on our website yet. So I will send that link out with the recording of this video, if you want to check that out. So any other questions?
I'm curious, I've done a little bit of like Googling and stuff. And so I know there's a lot of different, online trainings and, you mentioned the different kinds you can do, uh, which I can understand the benefit of that, but also, um, I'm just wondering if, I mean, it seems like there are certain like hands-on kind of skills, right, that you would want to kind of be in person for. Um, I guess what are your thoughts on that? Like, does it matter to have that in-person component or
Yeah, so that's my least favorite part. So when I started training doulas, I said I will never train online because you're missing that aspect. And then COVID happened, and it was either train online or you don't get to train doulas. And so actually pivoting has been super helpful because, like I said, multiple women from multiple countries. But that is my least favorite part. Our last class is like a mock birth. We do comfort measures, we do positions. And what I do is I have you invite someone with you. So you bring someone along, and that can be your sister or your friend or a potential client or your husband. I use my daughter. She's always the most free. She's 15. But and then we actually walk through the positions and the moves together. That way you're doing the hands-on with us. So yes, it's not perfect because it's not like, here, I can't come over and like correct your hip squeeze, but we do try to navigate that as best as possible. But you do bring someone so that you can physically do it at the same time. And then you will have the recording and you have like a library of videos so you can go over those things. But I really encourage the hands-on practicing because you need to get really comfortable with people you know first. And then that helps you to build that confidence for when you don't know someone as well, because you are in a very intimate, sacred space and you are physically touching people and they might not be wearing much or nothing at all. And so you do need to like build up for most people that confidence to do that. And so that just comes with experience. So even if you did it in person, it's still needs more practice outside of that. But it is my least favorite part, and I don't have a great answer for that except um, whatever doula training you do, partner with some other ladies. It doesn't have to be direct partner, but like collab with or network with other doulas, and then generally like different areas have their own like get-togethers where they'll do additional trainings or they can do some of that hands-on as well. Or you can always come to the Philippines and I will help you. But yeah, it's my least favorite part with the virtual. So, but I will say self-paced is even less ideal because again, you're just watching something and going through motions versus when you have a live component, I can at least, critique or walk you through, or you get to physically try it, while figuring it out. So, yeah. Any other questions? So, as we slightly touched on, but we have birth doula training starting on Monday nights in September. So, I generally always offer a Monday night class, which is my Tuesday morning, a Monday night class, and then a Thursday night class, which is my Friday morning. And so in September, it will be birth on Mondays, postpartum on Thursdays. And then in October, it will be postpartum on Mondays and birth on Thursdays. And the reason why is because the majority of our women take the bundle deal, which is birth and postpartum together. And they take birth 1 month and then postpartum the next month, or vice versa. So this gives you the availability to do that. So if you're like, hey, Monday nights work really well for me, you just do back-to-back trainings, or if Thursdays work well, you do back-to-back trainings. Yeah, so that's generally what most people do. Our doula trainings, our birth doula training, I believe, is $8.99, and our postpartum is $7.99. And so altogether, I think it's about 1,500, but we do a bundle deal of $11.99. But I will send out a code for you guys with this recording. And if you want to sign up in the next 24 hours for our September or October classes, you can do the bundle deal for just $9.99. So I wanted to offer that to you ladies for taking the time to show up and listen to me as I wake up over here in the Philippines. So yeah, I would love for you to join me in my dream job. I love this. Like I said, it definitely has some harder parts to it, being on call, missing things, but being able to witness the miracle of life being born is like nothing else. And being able to walk alongside women in this sacred time is like nothing else. And so, yeah, my love for birth work has evolved into, like I said, finishing being a midwife. I'm certifying as an international midwife, and being able to serve in multiple countries in multiple different ways and expanding that. But that's really my heart, is that I see birth work as ministry, and it's a spiritual battleground. Whether people, see it as spiritual or not, it is very spiritual. So I think it's super vital to have someone in that space who just knows who knows Jesus. And so if that aligns with what you want to do, I would love to join you in this journey, just support you, come alongside of you. If you're like, hey, that's not the training for me, that's perfectly fine. I would love to connect you with whatever training is the best fit for you, help you figure that out, because I know that there are so many options. And I know that we're not the right fit for everyone, just like you won't be the right doula for everyone. But I still want to see more women supporting women. So I'm happy to help you figure out what the right training is for you, if you want to email me. But yeah, any other questions?
So much for your time.
Yeah, thanks for joining and putting up with just everything. I'm thankful to have a good, decent-ish connection. My husband, we actually have to use his cell phone, and it's like in the window, and sometimes we actually take it outside, and it's a whole thing sometimes. But yeah, right now we don't have any monsoons or typhoons or tsunamis, so it's a good day at the moment.
By the glory of God.
Yes. All right. Well, I will send out the recording and the video for the trip if anyone's interested in just trip information as well. And if anyone would like to join us, I'm excited to see you guys again in September. Being able to walk alongside of a woman during pregnancy, birth, and postpartum is both a blessing and an honor. To be able to be invited into that sacred space of birth and bringing forth life, to be able to come alongside and give continuous physical, emotional, educational, advocacy, and spiritual support is like no other. To be a woman, to be able to be with women, to come alongside women, to serve women, to love women well during this season. There are 3 times in a person's life when they're most open to spiritual conversations and are seeking spiritual truths, and that is birth, death, and marriage. So to be able to come alongside of them during birth is a time to meet both those physical and spiritual needs. For you created my innermost being. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. My frame was not hidden from you. When I was made in the secret place, when I was woven together in the depths of the earth, your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. Psalms 139, 13 through 16. Birth work is ministry.